We need to put some holdo maneuvers.
Hello again, welcome back to another episode of the HOLDO MANEUVER podcast. This is episode 59 of the show, and this week we have rejoining us again is Bonnie Marie Williams, who joined us for our epic mega cast for the Ted Lasso episode.
Mega cast.
Yeah.
The chaos that was.
So welcome back, Bonnie.
Hi, thanks. I'm happy to be back.
Yeah.
It feels like so long ago.
Yeah. What
was it, March?
It was like June, I think. I don't know.
It was a whole strike ago.
Yeah.
It was. True.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And yeah,
118 days.
Yeah, it looks like the Screen Actors Guild strike is finally over today after 119 days.
118.
Who's counting?
So, yes.
Very exciting. Fran posted it. We're just waiting on official confirmation, but Fran posted it, so I'm going to go with that for now. But anxiety says just wait, but I still want to be excited.
Yeah. We in the nanny we trust. But yeah, this episode is going to be, it's kind of a special series that we're trying out for November. Since November is Thanksgiving month in the United States, we thought of an idea of characters we're thankful for within the Star Wars galaxy. So this episode, we're going to be talking all about Princess Leia and Carrie Fisher, just kind of as a whole. And we thought, who better to have on for this episode, because we knew Bonnie's favorite character, is Princess Leia. For those just listening, Bonnie held up a little stuffed Princess Leia. But yeah, so this episode, that's basically
not a toy either. It was a stuffed body.
It's stuffy because it's in my booth. Yeah.
Yes.
It's got a big head and a little body.
It helps with sound dampening.
Mm-hmm.
You can write that. You can do that as a tax write-off. That's for
what I do. Don't tell my accountant.
Bonnie's accountant. Don't listen to this episode of the whole.
Don't listen to it, Howard. Just turn it off.
Nice.
Figures.
Howard is also a duck,
Howard.
by the way.
It's a very accountant name.
I almost spat out my water.
Nice.
You think accountant first name is usually Howard. That's just.
But Mike, you got anything you want to say before we?
Oh, I got something terrible. I gotta say, it's burning a hole in my chest. I gotta get it off my chest.
I mean, besides the normal stuff like that you have to say, but like.
Oh no, this is top priority. This is
okay.
Got a question for you, and it's why didn't group therapy work for Princess Leia? You know, it's not for everyone. Daddy issues would have been a reason, but she needed to tackle her issues solo. Didn't
Yeah, that sound effect.
There you
Okay. I'm just trying to take a machine's job, man.
You could have. It didn't work.
Well, okay.
Took a minute. You beat the machine. You're like Dwight. Beat the computer.
Mike Winslow was that his name? Police Academy.
I think so.
I think it was, yeah. Also in Spaceballs, so bringing it back to Star Wars.
Star Wars
relevancy.
Hey.
Yeah. All around. But yeah, so Princess Leia, she has been in many different things now at this point across Star Wars media. The young version of Leia showed up most recently in the Obi-Wan Kenobi series. We've seen baby Leia in Revenge of the Sith.
Does that count?
Yeah, it counts. Also, in that Padme and Anakin only assumed that they were having one kid that entire time, which I guess.
Hence the name Luke.
Although I guess like their technology in the future past was very bad as far as for ultrasounds and stuff like that.
According to my mother, they didn't have that technology until like the 90s. Because she thought I was a girl because there was no ultrasounds in the 80s.
They didn't see your lightsaber?
Nope. It was hidden.
All right.
So and I asked
my mom and be like, how did you know I was a girl? She said she had a dream and knew I was a girl. So I don't know.
My mom just said she knew. And then I came out a boy and has been disappointing ever since.
Somehow she always knew. And that's why she kissed you like you weren't her brother. But also, Leia showed up in Star Wars Rebels as a little bit older. She showed up in the Force Unleashed game, which is now Legends, technically. Which I always liked her, like how her appearance in that, too. Just going to go on a quick side tangent here. I wish that the Force
We haven't
Unleashed was
started
still...
a singular line of thought yet.
I know.
So.
I just wish that the Force Unleashed was still technically canon, because I really liked how they made the Rebel Alliance logo that's back there in the back of Mike's screen, how they worked that in story-wise within that game, so that it was the main characters then what were played in it is like his family crest for the Merrick crest. So by the, like, spoiler alert to Force Unleashed game, when he dies in that they use the crest as basically as a way to honor him within it. I liked that reasoning for it. I mean, and now it's just, I guess, that it's kind of like an evolved version of the Phoenix art that Sabine was doing in Rebels. But I liked the reasoning from that a little bit more. And then obviously we had the, I guess, next timeline-wise version of her would be the CG face Princess Leia that showed up in Rogue One, and then obviously Carrie Fisher through the original trilogy, and then Carrie Fisher through technically all of the sequel trilogy, but only filmed for the first two films.
Mm-hmm.
But
Death will do that to you, unfortunately.
Yes. Unfortunately. For all of those appearances, what was
You
your
forgot
guys'
one,
what?
the holiday special.
Oh, yes. No, I
Must
didn't
not
forget that. I did not forget that one.
It's because the holiday season doesn't start until after Thanksgiving, so it's okay that you didn't mention it right now.
Yeah. She destroyed it with a hammer. So out of those, I guess, what was for you, Bonnie? What, I'm assuming it was the original trilogy, but what was the first time that you're like, all right, Leia is my character that I like the most out of all the Star Wars characters?
Yeah, I was like 4 years old. So I got into it really young. I'm pretty sure, this was never confirmed, but I'm pretty sure my dad wanted a boy and my parents said they were going to stop at one kid because they both had 7 brothers and sisters each. So they were like, one is good. And, and with that, as I'm sure both of you know, this stuff was not cool when we were little. Like if you liked anything nerdy, you would get made fun of severely. Like I know I got
A little bit.
a little bit. I think, it's okay. We talk about it in therapy now. It's fine. But,
Yeah.
it wasn't cool back when I was little to be a girl that liked comic books and Star Wars. And now it's cool, which my dad told me later. He's like, you're welcome. I mean, cool. You're welcome. I'm like, yeah, it only took 20 years, but, thanks. But my parents got me into Star Wars when I was very young, and I just remember seeing this girl, for lack of a better term, on screen that had brown hair like I did. This is not natural blonde. Stop. My watch is talking. It said brown is good. I'm like, that's cool. Thanks for asking.
It was giving you positive affirmations.
Yeah, I have Leia on my watch band, which is cool.
Nice.
Great conversation starter. But I was a little girl who saw this tiny woman with brown hair telling the boys what to do. I was like, oh, that's cool. And she was, as Carrie Fisher said, a sass factory. And I was as well. So it was that and Belle from Beauty and the Beast, which is a topic for another time. But those were 2 major influences on me as a little girl. And I remember it was Oscar season at my daycare. My mom kept this. It's with it's with some stuff that she kept of mine in a box from when I was little. But it was Oscar season, and they were asking all the kids. This was like 1992. who they thought was going to win an Oscar. And I said Carrie Fisher's Princess Leia in Star Wars. And they thought it was so cute, even though it was kind of dumb, but they thought it was really cute and they printed it. And my mom just thought it was the cutest, most endearing thing. She's like, sweetheart, she's not going to win this year. And I didn't understand why. But that's probably where it started, was just seeing some sort of representation on screen. And, you know, a lot of the princesses in movies when I was little had blonde hair. Now I know I'm blonde now, but it's fine. But back when I was little, there wasn't a lot of that. So it was kind of surface level at first, but then I loved the movies for what they were. They were very entertaining. They were very fun. I understood them more as I got older, but I loved how brave she was and how she was in there saving herself, saving the boys. To me, it was just like, oh my God, this character's amazing. I want to be her when I grow up. And that's never really left me. So that's, I think, really where it started, was being about 4 years old, just seeing her going in, kicking ass, taking names, and not apologizing for it. Being herself, being brave, being bold, and unapologetically herself. And I loved that. I just thought that was so cool.
Here, here.
How about you, Mike? What was the first time that you liked?
What are you getting
Princess
at?
Leia? No,
I remember as a
I'm not
kid-
saying Return of the Jedi.
I remember as a kid holding the cinnamon buns up to my head because of the hairstyle. Like, I remember that being a focal point of like something I always did. And I don't like, that's my first memory of Princess Leia is doing that. Like, I don't remember the first time I saw Star Wars, but I remember doing that. And I remember winning all the trivia contests at all the skating events at school instead of playing with people and making friends, being the guy winning all the. You weren't at the same school as this was like Catholic school. This was our Sunday school. We had a skating party. You and I went to different churches. So, and everyone else was off skating, having fun, and I was standing there ready to go answer the questions.
Still having fun in your own way.
But being ridiculed at the same time.
Yeah.
All worked out in the end.
Yeah.
No,
Who's
it's
got
just
the last laugh now?
I don't know yet. Time will tell.
Mark Hamill is the Joker.
Hey.
But she's such a pivotal force. Like, without her, there'd be no rebellion. If she did not succeed in A New Hope and getting R2 and C-3PO off, where would we be? Like, and she's such a strong lead. She keeps everyone in line. She drags the bus forward, essentially. Like, without her, there'd be no hope.
She's a new hope as a destroyer.
Oh, I see what you did there.
And then, my daughter has not watched Star Wars yet. I'm not trying to force it upon her.
Yeah.
So
This guy's just making dad jokes all over.
that was unintentional. That's just my
it
dad.
was- no,
that's just
it was-
oozing out of me right now.
It wasn't unintentional. It was apparent.
Mm-hmm.
Ah.
I'm going to mute you for that. No, it's just somehow we got this, those gold bound kids books. I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
The golden books or whatever.
Yeah.
Little golden.
Somehow we have one for Empire Strikes Back. Don't know where it came from. I didn't buy it.
Yeah, I think they've done all of the movies now at this point.
They have. I might have them, and I don't have a kid.
It's fine.
That's all right. The art.
And we read that one the other day, and we had to keep turning pages back. And I was like, why do we keep going back? Because I want to finish this book. Like, it's bedtime. Go to bed. Like,
more Leia.
And that's what you wanted to see was Princess Leia. And I was like, now I got to show her a movie. But at the same time, you're 4. You won't. I want you to pay attention and understand it. But
I did. I turned out mostly fine.
no, it's my movies and my daughter. She's a little ADD at the moment.
There's those Forces of Destiny. They're like those shorter animated
I tried.
They're mostly like female centric, so I think a lot of them have Leia, and like they have Rey, Hera. I think Jin is in some of them from Rogue One, but there's a lot of them with Leia in them.
Well, in terms of length, I've tried. Was that Star Wars Kids thing that just came out, the animation one?
Oh, that Jedi Adventures.
Yeah, and that went over so well. Turned
She's
it
not
off.
a fan of the High Republic.
She's just not. I don't know.
She's like, I don't like this era, Ed. I want original trilogy.
Because I tried to have her watch Rebels with me because I haven't watched that. She got bored with that. It's just might not be ready yet.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't want to shove her into it. Be like, you're gonna watch this. It's great, because then she won't like it.
It's true. What you got to do?
I got to bring balance here.
Yeah. What you got to do is just like she just played it when she was a baby, and then she hears the music.
I
it
would
makes it
sing
soothing.
the songs to her. The John Williams score. I would hum them, whistle them, sing them while we were putting her to sleep. Same with Jurassic Park.
Because you see, Patrick was brought to a Star Wars convention while he was in the womb still.
It's true, he was.
So when I was telling him, I was like, your Star Wars fandom began before you even were in the world. You could hear George Lucas talk.
He was
at
in
that
the
convention.
world.
Well, outside.
Grogu didn't exist yet to eat him as a young one.
That's true. I think I actually saw Empire Strikes Back first when I was younger, because when I watched the movies for the first time when I was a kid, I want to say I walked out in the living room and my cousins were like, they were, like the older VHS that had like the half faces on it. It was like Vader was on a New Hope, and then I think it was a Stormtrooper on Empire, and then Yoda on Return of the Jedi. They were watching that non-special edition version of Empire, and I walked out while they were watching that. So that was my first experience with Leia, was that version of Leia in that movie. So I had to eventually go back and watch A New Hope. But I remember I liked, kind of going off like of what you were saying, Bonnie, and like what you were saying, Mike, too, like how I liked how she was funny and didn't put up with like Han's crap and stuff. And I just liked that whole interaction with them in the beginning of that movie when I was younger, like the who's scruffy looking, and like her
Nerf
whole,
herder.
Yeah, that's our word. You can't say that. But yeah, like that, like her whole arc within that second movie in general, I think is what like made me get really attached to that character. So anybody coming to this podcast assuming that Mike and I were going to say that we like Princess Leia because of Return of the Jedi, no, we are not those kind of dudes.
Maybe they thought that about me.
Didn't
You
hurt,
don't know.
but
I was like, oh, yeah. I think Sylvie over here, I think that's the one that she liked most. But she just liked, I mean, that movie is cool too, because she just like, takes Jabba out. Just like strangling him.
That's what I remember more than the Golden Bikini, is her strangling him to death.
Yeah, which is now they've like changed the name of that.
Okay,
that version.
Do we
of
need
Leia
spoiler alert after 45 years?
Yeah, Jabba got choked out, but
I feel like if we haven't seen that yet, you're just never going to see it.
Yeah. But now, like, how do we, like, I kind of brought it up jokingly, but how do we feel? I guess like, because George Lucas was kind of writing it as he's going along a little bit with Luke and Leia, because that's still something that I think is kind of funny when we get to the Return of the Jedi, and Luke tells her that they're brother and sister, and she's like, I know, somehow I've always known, and I'm like, wait, what? Then why did you just kiss him like that?
Because sometimes men make us do stupid things.
Very true.
You know?
Like get married to us. We make you guys do that sometimes.
There's an awesome edit though, where there's this video where Leia's telling Han that whole thing, and then it cuts, and then it's that face of Han where he's like, or it looks like he's like thinking, yeah, and then it's like the he's like, wait, what the hell? But yeah, I've always
wasn't there to see the kiss though. He wouldn't, unless Luke bragged about it.
No,
Luke might have been a braggart.
between the original trilogy and the sequel trilogy coming out, we had all these different films that Carrie Fisher showed up in as well too. So I know this is about Princess Leia, but I would like it to be about Carrie Fisher too.
Yes.
I mean, she is Princess Leia. So outside of Princess Leia, between that original trilogy and then what she would eventually come back as General Leia Organa in the sequel trilogy, what were some of your favorite roles that she was in, either in TV or movies between those 2 points? So we'll go back to you, Bonnie, first.
Yeah. Every cameo ever.
Yeah.
If I heard she was in it, great. And honestly, a lot of it really is more than just her on-screen cameos, but more so her writing. That really, I became a big fan of her writing, and not just her script doctoring and all of that, but her actual writing. You know, we have Postcards from the Edge. I loved that she talked about her family. I loved her stand-up. Like, she was so funny because she wasn't afraid to laugh at herself. And she said something like, if my life weren't true, then if it weren't true, then it would just, no, if it weren't funny, then it would just be true. And that would be unacceptable. And I love that quote that she said, it's okay to laugh at this stuff. So a lot of it is really her comedy, her writing, and her mental health advocacy. Those are 3 super big things that I loved about her outside of Star Wars. It wasn't just Star Wars for me. That was the catalyst for sure. You know, I mean, I loved her in the Blues Brothers. You know, like just like a great small part. But she was hilarious in it and barely said anything. Like, that was a movie I loved when I was little. And so it was cool getting to see her in that. But the more I got older and the more I learned about her, and I learned about her family and how she even talks about how it's like this weird Hollywood incestual dynasty, and goes into a comedy special about it. It's just so good that you have somebody that can say, yeah, I was kind of messed up about a lot of this. Why wouldn't anybody else be? But I find that there is power in the comedy and talking about it and sharing the truth and why this is so freaking funny. And that in and of itself is a very powerful thing. It kind of takes away, I know I keep saying powerful, but it's true. If you can laugh at something, and that this doesn't mean everything. And I talk about this in some of the comedy classes that I do, but it doesn't mean we laugh at everything.
Right.
But if we can laugh at a lot of things, there is a lot of power we take back from that situation. And I think she is by far the best example of that. So I really loved a lot of that, and that she talked about mental health. And there were not as many celebrities doing that. Or if they did, like Brooke Shields, she got a lot of backlash. But Carrie Fisher openly talked about her mental health struggles and her medication. And I think
Wasn't she
that's
buried in like a Prozac or something shaped container. Not to interrupt, sorry.
No. But that's exactly it. That's, you know, she talked about how she was doing electroshock therapy and wrote one of her books, Shockaholic, I think it was. And she said, you know, I'm writing this stuff out and these memories because if I forget them through this therapy that I'm doing, I want to have some sort of recollection about them, because she had this rich, wonderful life, and that was not normal by any means. So that's something that means a lot to me.
You didn't talk about that.
Yeah, you didn't talk about that. You didn't talk about, it's like, oh, you're sad? Like, no, I'm depressed. There's a difference. Like, just go outside. Or I was told by family members, you don't need that. You have nothing to be depressed about. Like, no, sometimes it's just a biological thing. It is nothing that you did. And so now you have a whole generation of people that are our age and younger that are talking about mental health when older generations didn't do that. And I think she was a big champion of that. And that gave me the courage to talk about it and to share more about that. And that's something I feel like I owe her. And I met her and I didn't even think to bring that up, because it's like, what do you say to this person? That was my story at Star Wars Celebration Anaheim in 2015. I got the tickets 2 years out. because I said, Carrie Fisher's going to be there. I'm going. I don't care what I'm doing in 2 years. I will be there. I spent like a month's rent in LA on that convention, and it was worth it. And I waited in line for 4 hours to meet her. I said, if I don't do anything else today, this is it. I have been waiting since I was a kid. And like, I'm getting closer to the front. I'm going, what do I say to her? What do I say to her? What do I say? And I have had family friends that were celebrities. I have worked in PR. I've done all that. But what do you say to Carrie Fisher? And so I'm like, I don't want to be like, I loved you as Princess Leia when I was little, and you're my hero. And I was like, don't cry, don't cry, don't be that nerd, don't be that nerd, don't cry. Like, what do you say? So I get to the front and I go, hi. She says, hi. I said, I don't know what to say to you that nobody else has ever said. And she looked up from signing my autograph and she went, that's a good place to start. I was like, okay. And then I remembered she sprinkled glitter on people's heads. And so my friend was next to me and I said, hey, I heard that you sprinkle glitter on people. Do you happen to have any? And she said, oh yeah, let me check my bag. And sitting next to her in her bag was Gary, her dog. And she said,
Nice.
oh, this is my dog, Gary. And I said, hi, Gary. And then she's like, oh, I found some glitter. Bring me your head. Come here. And my friend Sarah, bring me your head. Like, you have to. And my friend Sarah was next to me. She's like, me too. And I was like, no, this is my turn. But fine. So we both stuck our heads over and she sprinkled glitter on us. And it was the best day ever. And I think I walked away and I was like, thank you. I love you. And then I turned my back from the table and my friend walked up to see her. And that's when I started crying. I was like, okay, I didn't cry in front of her. I walked away and I cried, and that's okay. So it was one of the best days of my life. And I took a photo with her and Mark Hamill, and I gave them all of my money that I was making as an actor working a survival job back then. And it was worth it. It was worth it. And it was worth it. I would do it again in a heartbeat. I have to be a little bit different now, but I would do it again in a heartbeat. It was one of the best experiences ever. And she took her time with every single person in line.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
That's always good to hear, like when you actually, when there actually is a good experience from meeting your hero, rather than the flip side of that.
Yeah.
That was kind of like the similar experience I had when I finally, I met Kevin Smith once in 2010, and it was like very brief. But then, fast forward to 2019, after I went through my weight loss journey, and then randomly ran into him after.
Did you jump out of a car?
Well, yeah. I'll make this brief because this isn't the Kevin Smith episode that we did 20 episodes ago. I went to a podcast taping that he did for Hollywood Babylon, or was it Hollywood Babylon? It was the one that he does with Ralph Garman. So I think that's the one that it was.
I think it is. Yeah.
Yeah. But so I went to I went to the show with my friend Mark with a K. So it was Marc and Mike at that show. And we were leaving, and I noticed people standing on the side of the building where the podcast recording was. I was like, oh, those were those dudes that were kind of waiting for the show. And then we were like, oh, that looks like Ralph Garman right there. I was like, all right. And then I was like, oh, that's Kevin. So then there's all this construction going on. So if people have ever seen the picture, you can see all the construction cones and everything behind us in the photo. And you can actually, if you look in the background, you can see my friend Mark standing in the doorway of his car, standing there in the background of the shot. But yeah, I talked to Kevin Smith there. I told him my whole story of how I lost weight, and he gave me a hug, and he seemed like he was genuinely moved, and almost Kevin Smith is also kind of famous for crying about a lot of stuff, and he seemed like he was gonna do that. And he's like, oh, thanks, man. I'm glad my bad decisions could help you make good decisions. So, and then they gave me a hug. So it was that was kind of my thing like that. But I think that's really cool that she was like that. And just from other people that I've seen at conventions too, when Michael Rosenbaum came to Phoenix Comic-Con years ago, he spent I think 20 or 30 minutes of his panel talking about Carrie Fisher, because I think that might have been the year that she had passed away. Mm-hmm. So he basically, and he was wearing, if people are watching the video of this, he was wearing a shirt that the photo of our backdrop for this episode is of, with her on.
Pause your podcast, go over to YouTube, check it out.
Yeah, it's the photo of Carrie Fisher as Princess Leia with her hands on her neck. If you the photo if you find it. But yeah, he spent like 20
You
minutes.
know it
or
if you can find it.
Yeah. I was like just talking about like her and him having conversations about like mental health and like how much, because I think they were neighbors for a while too. So like how much like she helped him with like with his own mental health and whatnot. So he was just saying how awesome she was and how just like a good person she was. So I like the fact that not only is she like a hero to people because of playing Princess Leia in these movies and what that character represents, but what her as a person represented in everything that she stood for and like wanted to, like break stigmas on people talking about mental health and whatnot. And like all three of us like Ted Lasso. That's why we liked that show too, because it brought mental health into the like forefront, and like the
Oh
show
yeah.
even went to the White House to like make mental health like more of a thing that people can talk about there too. And then for people, you brought up her family too, is that for people that may not know, like her mom was Debbie Reynolds, who was in Singing in the Rain, among many other things.
Many other things. Hollywood royalty.
And then they like passed away with like in a month of each other, or
Day.
yeah, like a
Debbie
day.
Reynolds passed away the next
It
day.
was very quick.
Which I feel with my mom, I know like if like say if my sister or I were to do that before she did, that would probably be the same thing. But that just shows like how
They were very close.
I haven't seen some of those documentaries yet, but I need to check some of those out that they
Yeah.
did about
Bright
the two
Lights,
of
I
them.
think it is, about the two of them on HBO or Max or whatever it's called. It's
Yeah.
really, really good. It was filmed not too long before they passed away. Highly recommend, because they lived right next door to each other.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Max, the home of HBO.
The home of
Uh,
HBO. Max, now streaming. Yeah,
And then
Why
Billy
does my
Lord.
remote still say HBO? Damn it!
Yeah, just
Why did that change?
they got rid of the recognizable part of the name.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, and then Billy Lord. Once we get into the sequel trilogy, Carrie Fisher's daughter herself has been in the Star Wars films too now as well, actress in her own right. So I think, and then for me, I'm just gonna say my favorite role of hers, non-Star Wars, would have been in The Burbs, because I liked her alongside Tom Hanks in that film too. And
Mm-hmm.
then obviously we talked about Kevin Smith a little bit too when she showed up in Jane and Silent Bob Strike Back, and among other
So good.
cameos of like what you said too. So
Sex in the City cameo. She's great on that. Just everything. Everything.
She owned
Anytime
every
she-
role she had,
yes,
and she just made it her own, and she was genuine. You don't get that very much. Like, I haven't met anyone I consider a hero. One, because of I don't take the opportunities.
That
And
hurts.
two, fear.
that hurts, Mike.
Yeah. Like, I'm afraid that I meet them and they'd be like, piss off. So it's like, why go through that? I also haven't
Right.
taken any opportunities to do that. Closest thing to a celebrity I met was Jeff Dye, a comedian. I performed with him, and I didn't recognize him, and that hurt his feelings.
Oh shit.
Oops.
But to be fair, it was like my third month being a stand-up in the middle of New York, and he was just opening at the Funny Bone. So, not opening, but performing there. And this is my second time performing there. And I was sitting there, I was in my act, just being like, I got to remember this. I got to remember this. And he walked in, I was like, hey, I'm this so-and-so. And he goes, and? I'm like, that's who I am. Who are you? And he goes, walked out. Guy doesn't know who I am. But I hung out with him afterwards for a little bit. He was cool at the end.
Nice.
But yeah, Carrie Fisher, I remember her, Jay and Silent Bob, really. Outside of this, you could say, I remember her from Hook because she was uncredited in that.
Oh yeah.
I watch Hook a lot. Scream 3, I should remember her from that. But
Which, funny enough, she's in Scream 3. Jane Silent Bob are in Scream 3. Technically, that's supposed to be part of Scream 3, I guess, is part of the VSQ universe, or what is it, the VSQ multiverse then, I guess, because it's... I don't know.
Well, Scream 3 came out first, so...
Yeah. But, I don't know.
Either way, like, she could have not done these roles. She could have been like, I'm above this.
Mm-hmm.
But she didn't. She's like, I know, like, unfortunately, I know what I'm famous for, so I gotta play into it a little.
Play into it and play the opposite.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that she doctored up the Star Wars script to make it her own, to make it more believable. No one else did that. So
I remember there being like I don't remember like specifically like a making of or like behind the scenes thing too, but I just remember it being like a funny thing where like in that first film with like what she's wearing in that, and I don't know if this is gonna sound gross because I'm talking about it, but where
want me to
like
talk about it?
Do you want me to talk about it?
Do you guys know what I'm gonna talk about? I think
How George Lucas convinced her not to wear a bra because they don't wear them in space.
Because they don't wear them in space, and because you could see that she was wearing a bra like under the, but like how she told the story, I thought it was funny because it was like very like within like how Carrie Fisher would tell the story. So I just thought she's like, well, there you go, George. I'm not wearing one now. So, but
just like laughing
have you
at
seen
it.
anything where Lucas comments on Carrie Fisher? I don't know if I've seen any interviews or snippets or quotes from anything he said about her.
I probably have, but I like watching her roast everybody else more, to be honest with you.
I agree.
At the award ceremony, when she talks about that, about not being able to wear underwear in space. And I think it was, what was like the AFI something with George Lucas and Spielberg. It was something like that. But she gets up there and she talks about it. She said, and I slept with you to get that part. And if that wasn't you, then who the hell was that guy? Like, it's just so good. Like, just the comedic timing and being able to laugh at yourself is, she's just so good. Yeah.
So, and then when we got into the sequel trilogy more recently, and we got to see her coming back, Harrison Ford coming back, and Mark Hamill coming back. Before you saw Force Awakens when that came out, was there anything you were specifically kind of like anticipating or wanting to see with Leia within that first film that maybe you did get to see, and then I guess that you may have didn't get to see, unfortunately, just because of her untimely passing before the trilogy was able to end?
I wanted to see more of her leadership, just her leading the troops and more of that. And I love that she grew into that and wasn't just a princess, but a general. I thought that was so badass. I've cried at every Star Wars movie that comes out. As soon as it starts, I'm crying. Like, I brought tissues over here in case I start crying. Every single one, I cry. I cry at the end of Return of the Jedi. I'm a mess. This is how you can tell I'm crying in a movie, is because I put my hands over my face and I'm just sitting there like this. That's what I tell people when I go to the movie. I'm like, if you see me doing this, I'm just crying and I don't want people to hear me. Don't make it weird. You can acknowledge it and then keep watching the movie. Don't make me feel self-conscious. So sit there like this. I'm like crying into my hands ever so softly. So I wanted to see her and Han back together. Again, I wanted to see what they were all doing now. And it was such a big deal. Like, I remember seeing the trailers at, I think, Comic-Con. And I was a mess. I was crying at the freaking trailers. But I was curious to see what were their roles now, then, when they weren't necessarily the young leads. So I really wanted to see more of her leadership. And what is she doing now? Of course, kicking ass. And I wanted to see more of her dynamic with Han, and how did they deal with all of that? What were they, where were they now compared to where they were then?
Yeah.
That was really what I wanted. I was just happy we were going to see them again. Honestly, I was like, cool, more Star Wars. We get to see them again. Hell yeah. I'm all for it.
Yeah, I would have liked to see, like, if I think about the Han Solo Leia relationship, it kind of doesn't make sense that they were together in my head. It feels like she was too strong for his bullshit. Like, she wouldn't put up with it.
Which is kind of why they're not together by the time.
Well, no, like, I don't even think they would have, like, in my head, I didn't expect them to even have a family. Like, I mean, it makes sense that they weren't together because Han really didn't show growth.
That's why Kylo's so effed up.
Possible.
Therapy. Space therapy.
That was like one takeaway. I was like, this doesn't make sense to me. Like, I feel like Leia's too strong for. But again, everyone makes mistakes, I guess.
Okay.
I would have loved to see just more middle area between the time gap between where we ended with Jedi and where we end up with Force Awakens.
Mm.
There was a huge gap, and I understand why there's a huge gap because that's how long it was. But nothing Leia specific, just more of how they got to where they were.
Mm.
Like when Obi-Wan kicked off and became Leia-centric, not Luke-centric, I was over the moon. I couldn't have been happy with that choice because I was Luked out. I was Luked out. So.
And it kind of gives more of a reason why they named their kid Ben when they did have Kylo.
Right.
Yeah, love that. She was great. I loved it. I was so, like you, I was so excited that it was little Leia running around and being a little sass factory. Like, yes, it's consistent. We love that. I thought the actress was great. I loved all of that. I thought it was great. Yeah.
And I have to assume that Carrie Fisher probably would have given her the stamp of approval too after watching that.
I would hope so. I feel like she would. Not that I'm a Carrie Fisher
She would
whisperer,
have been
but I
on
feel like
set
she would.
All right.
I feel
Be like, here's how you insult them even more. You know, like 100%. You want to know some bad words? Like 100. I just feel like she would have been teaching her bad words in
call
the
that
best
guy
way
a nerf
possible.
herder.
Yeah, I think there's like something like in one of like the first 2 or 3 episodes where like that like other like douchey kid was like being a jerk to her, and just like, or like something about like droids, and she's like, I guess that means I don't need to respect something along the lines. Like, I guess that doesn't mean I don't need to don't need to respect talking to you then either. So
it's like, ooh, sick burn.
Also Flea, also an Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Flea. Good old Flea.
Yeah, Needles.
What did you want to see more of or not see?
I think I would have liked to, I guess, see the 3 of them together.
Yeah.
Which I guess technically wouldn't have happened ever since, spoiler, Han dies in Force Awakens.
What?
Luke dies in The Last Jedi. And then,
does he,
like,
though?
kind of, no one's ever really gone.
He's just kind of
like
forces himself to disappear.
Oh, are we going to talk about The Last Jedi, or is that a time for another episode?
We can talk about it. I mean, the show is called The HOLDO MANEUVER.
Okay. Well, I didn't know if it was like a specific. I'm just
Not yet.
asking.
Yeah. I mean, we can talk about
nothing's out of bounds.
The only thing I was going to say is that I know originally the plan was for Rise of Skywalker to be much more very, very Leia-centric, where like how Force Awakens was kind of more or less like Han was like, the old class and that, like passing on that, and then Luke was. So unfortunately, with how it came out in real life, the 2 people that were still alive in real life were the people that passed within the movies, and then the one that passed in real life was the one that was still alive. So
that was rough watching that without her being. Oh, were you crying? I was crying. I might start crying again.
Yeah, and I mean, hats off to them too for being able to repurpose stuff that J.J. Abrams had shot for Force Awakens and reusing it in such a way for Rise of Skywalker that it kind of made sense and what they could do with it.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know.
I'm glad, and I'm so glad that they didn't just. I was so scared the beginning of that movie. It was just going to be she dies off screen.
Right.
That they were going to do her dirty like that. I was so nervous, and I knew it was coming. Oh, I'm going to start crying. I knew it was coming, but I was so scared it was going to be beginning of the film. Oh, she died off screen, because that would have been bullshit after everything she'd been through. But the way that they closed out her story with saving her son, like that's what she would do as a mother, 100%. Like, oh, I'm crying. I just thought like that was so. Ooh, okay, we're good. I just thought
Um,
that was such a good with what they had and
Yeah.
what they could put together for that. I thought that that was a beautiful ending for that character.
And I have
Sure.
to assume that that scene would have been similar, that like where Han like appears to Kylo in that. It just would have been Leia instead of Han.
Yeah.
Um, but obviously, uh,
One thing I
and
will say that drove me absolutely insane was when she gets rocketed out of the ship and then just comes back into the ship.
hey, I like that.
I did. I was
She's
just
using
like,
she's using the
I
Force.
I thought it was
understand.
cool.
Yeah.
I can see that side of it, but me personally was just like, no, come on.
Yes. Yes. Come on.
I did not buy into that.
I like that.
I love when she comes back in and bandages with the blaster and is like, "You mother,"
Oh yeah.
like it's like there she is. Like, oh, yeah,
I also like in Rise of Skywalker when they do kind of like a little bit of a flashback in that with like showing Luke and Leia like and like Luke training her
yes,
and like kind of giving her that backstory and like essentially Leia being the most powerful in a way because she just chose to give it up so that she could, do what she needed to that she
Mhm.
considered to be more important than, learning the ways of the Force and stuff because she had more critical things that she wanted to take care of, like trying to take care of Kylo or sorry, Ben at that point. Um,
Do
so
we
I
think Luke was a stickler for the rules? Like, you got to give up all personal possessions, no romantic
well,
entanglements, no.
according to at least what Luke is doing to Grogu in Mando or in
Was he like
Mando
that with
and Book
Leia?
of Boba Fett, it seems like he's kind of like that. That seems like that would be around that time
No, it's
ish.
I don't think he was gonna tell his sister what she should
right.
not or should do. I think he'd be
I don't
like,
think
She
he'd
wouldn't have
get
you
away
listened to
know,
him
with
any.
it.
She wouldn't have listened to him anyways.
exactly. I don't think, she even says, "You'll do as I tell you." I don't think there was gonna be any bossing her around. Hundred
Yeah,
percent.
And then
Hundred
he tried to
percent.
kill her kid.
yeah.
Well, we
I
get
mean,
it.
it's easy to see why Ben became Kylo when you see that he had a dad that was like never there.
Hmm.
His uncle tried to kill him while he was sleeping because he had one bad premonition about him, but he gave his he gave his grandpa gave Kylo's grandpa all these passes. He's like, there's good in him. I can change him. He's good. He's cool. Kylo, I got a bad vibe. I'm gonna kill him right now. I just turn my lightsaber on while I sleep in. I'm gonna kill him. Oh wait, no, change my mind. Not gonna do that. But, I don't know.
Yeah, that was it was his dad. I don't know. I get it. I can understand it. I don't agree with it, but I can understand it.
It's like that's my dad. You're just my nephew. You're not my
I
son.
mean,
You're just my nephew.
I can understand from a nephew standpoint wanting to just like, but
Just
you
want to
don't
kill you.
do
No,
it. Oh, sometimes when they get going, you just want to punt them.
He didn't go through with it.
I've never pulled a knife on my nephew.
Oh, you
well,
should try it sometime. No, I'm just kidding.
They may pull one on me, but my daughter's pulled one on me. She didn't know what she was doing. She kicked the bathroom door open and was holding a meat cleaver laughing
that's what she says.
and went like this and then ran away. Like, I didn't even know we
I
had a
didn't
meat
know what I was
cleaver.
doing, Dad.
Too many horror movies. Too many.
Too many. She
So
has psycho moments when she's helping me cook. She'll take a knife out, like, ha ha ha. I'm like, oh my lord.
oh my gosh.
Good thing I'm a light sleeper.
So what we did get for what we got for like Resolution of Leia as compared to what would you have liked like in a perfect world where Carrie Fisher was still alive and they got to shoot the film as they wanted to, what would you have liked to have seen happen as a full resolution to Leia for episode 9? or did you like the resolution that we got, and would you just kind of liked to keep it that way, even if she was still with us?
Oh, I think it would have been cool to see her just holding a lightsaber and just to
One time.
just once. Just once. And to make it make sense in a scene, but God, that would have been cool. To see more of her in the Force, I think would have been really, really cool. But the ending, it's hard to picture something else. I don't know if I would have written something differently, because I'm kind of in the consensus of, like, and this might be a little controversial, I'm not a writer. These stories are not my stories to write. I don't do fan fiction. I know people that do, and bless you, that's your thing. It's not my thing because I'm not a writer. But I see it as these are our stories to consume. They're not our stories to write, unless we are in charge of that. And how do you put yourself in charge of this, knowing that somebody's going to hate it no matter what? Like, I think there could have been different choices for sure for the movie. I would have done overall, especially Rise of Skywalker is my least favorite of the new trilogy. I love The Last Jedi. I will die on that hill. I think it's the best one. I will die on that hill. It is in my top 3 favorite Star Wars movies. I will defend that till my last breath. But I don't know if I can picture anything different with her, like a different ending. I think it would have been great to see her at the premiere. But as for her character, I can't really picture a different ending. I just thought that was the most motherly thing that she could do for her son. It like, I don't know. I can't picture anything else. And that's okay. That just means I can't come up with something better. And that's okay.
Only thing I think I would have written if I had the choice was like a moment between her and Luke where she's like, cut the shit. Like, get over it. Like, we need you. But
like in one of the earlier.
Yeah, nothing from how she went out. I can't change that. Like, they did the best with what they had, and it worked for what they needed. But for an extra bonus thing, something between her and Luke where she's just like, what is your problem? Like, I understand, like, what happened, but, like, get over it.
More like sibling, like, hey,
Right.
knock it off, you dumbass.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. I think
could
that's
see
the only
that,
thing
yeah.
I would change too, is kind of
Slap
already
the
said it,
blue
but it was
milk out
like
of his mouth and be like,
that I
Pull
would have
yourself
liked
together.
to see like a little bit more interaction between, like, I know the new trilogy was like, it was Poe, Finn, and Rey, and
was it
like,
Finn though?
I mean, it was supposed to be
Yeah.
at one point. Like,
Was it?
he kind of got effed over a little bit there.
Yeah.
Which hopefully they're able to have him come back for Rey's new Jedi Academy movie, because I don't know
a
how
lot of convincing.
I don't know how canon those Lego specials are. Like,
Well, if you go by what Bob Iger said, everyth's canon now.
yeah, or if
I
you go by
finally just saw the Halloween one.
the
The
Terrifying
Tales of
Tales.
Terror. Yeah, I finally just saw that the other day. Sorry, I'm not trying to interrupt, but that was
No,
one of
you're
the
good.
funniest things I've ever seen. The Legos as like the debris in the background, I lost my mind. And Luke swapping out his hair
Oh yeah,
were some of the funniest things I've ever seen. And the Wookiee's paw, and it's the Lego hand. Those were 3 of my favorite comedic moments ever in anything. I died laughing. It was great. I just had to put that in there. I finally saw one, and it was amazing.
I'm a huge proponent of more comedy in Star Wars. It needs it.
yeah.
It worked.
We did the summer vacation one, where Weird Al shows up as Weird Al on Scarif. That's like one of our most viewed episodes of Hold Maneuver for some reason, random. But
Weird Al effect. He makes everything better.
And that one, with the story of that one, is set after Rise of Skywalker, and it's like Finn wanting Rey to train him to be a Jedi, and like him being all upset like that they're going their separate ways, that like he's not going to see Poe, he's not going to see Rey and whatnot. So I almost think that would be kind of interesting if that's what they did with Rey and him, and
watch that tonight.
the new thing.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it was like Summer Beach Party.
There's some good jokes in there.
It's one of the Lego specials that's on Disney Plus.
Brilliant.
But yeah, I think what I was
There's
saying
a
is
missed
just that
opportunity in there, I think. Because I think that
I would
instead
have
of saying
liked
that it's a
to see.
trap play on words, they ruined it. But if I remember
Oh, yeah.
correctly.
That I would have liked to seen a little bit more, maybe of just Leia, Han, and Luke together at one point, because
Yeah.
as it is, like they were never on screen ever together in the sequel trilogy. So
I think that's like
uh
their relationship, though, in a
yeah,
way.
yeah, like at this point, like within like 30 years later. So
Because Han never
as
really wanted to
we
be a
wrap,
father-brother figure to him. He was more like, yeah, there you are
that's
in
true.
my ship. But I can see that wanting to
That's
see
true.
more of them together.
Okay, question for you
Yeah.
guys.
Uh-oh.
Ooh, because it's Leia, but do you feel like she was the only one to grow and that Luke and Han both did not grow? She was the only character that had growth.
Yes. Because Han did not. He regressed even. Luke, I don't know if he regressed or anything. He just kind of became stagnant old man. Get off my lawn.
I think Han did kind of regress, definitely, like almost like where like he couldn't like handle like essentially staying within the responsibility that he ended up being by the end of Return of the Jedi, and then with being a dad and being with Leia, and he's like, oh, I gotta go back to being a smuggler and doing all that.
Go
stuff
back to what I
with,
know.
with Chewie.
Right.
That's what I'm good at. I'm gonna just leave my kid, leave my wife. I'm gonna go do what I need to do. And then
That's why I
I
wish
think
we had
with
that middle story, like somewhere.
yeah,
Animate it, for Christ's
I
sake.
think
Do it.
yeah, they'll probably do that eventually because they are filling in like all these like gaps in between. They've already kind of exhausted the pre New Hope Clone Wars era of doing animated series and live action series there. Now they're starting to fill in that gap here with like
Do
Book
it
of
with
Boba Fett and
Legos.
Mando and Ahsoka. Yeah, they can do it with Legos too. Uh, but yeah, like with like Luke kind of went like on this like a similar-ish like story path that Obi-Wan did in a different way.
Mhm.
Like he wasn't having to, hide a kid. He was more hiding from a kid. Um,
Yep.
but doing the same thing
Doing
where he's
what he
putting himself
knows.
into exile,
Hmm.
cutting himself off from the Force like Obi-Wan had to. So he essentially regressed into Obi-Wan of A New Hope.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
then yeah, just because he almost like he couldn't feel like he couldn't live up to like what the legend of
Right.
Luke Skywalker was. And then what's kind of cool about Last Jedi too is like he says this whole thing. He's like, oh, you want me to go out there with a laser sword and like take on the entire First Order myself? And then
Yes.
like that entire like thing that he said, he does do that. So.
Hmm.
Uh, So I mean, I like that whole kind of story progression that like Luke goes through. I don't like a lot of some of the stuff that with him in Rise of Skywalker because it feels like it then regresses him back to before to where he got to in Last Jedi.
Mhm.
But I don't know. We'll eventually have to revisit Last Jedi as its own full episode again.
Hmm.
Because and obviously, like I said, we our show is called the HOLDO Maneuver. But is there
Yeah.
any
No,
last
Leia
thoughts?
definitely had more growth than the other two because she was more of an adult than the other two in the end.
Even
She
at the
didn't.
beginning, too. Yeah.
So it's just she didn't go off smuggling or live in a cave, throw your vehicle in the water in a fit of rage, and
She had to hold it down at home. She always had to be responsible. And maybe if we're saying the stuff with Han doesn't make sense, like why would they get together? Because he was irresponsible. She never got to be. That's my
right.
thought. That it was very attractive because he got to be everything she never got to be. And sometimes we pick the bad boys. Doesn't mean it's our best choice, but it happens.
Right.
And also Harrison Ford back then, please. Who wouldn't pick him? Just saying. I still would now, and he's 80. I don't care. But
Him and his
that's all.
earring.
Hottest 81-year-old on the planet. It's great.
Wrapping up here at the end, just kind of final thoughts on Leia as we wrap out for this episode. Any last thing that you don't think that we may have said that you want people to either know about Carrie Fisher or Leia as we wrap out?
I am glad that the character exists, that she has been a role model for kids since the movie came out, and then those kids' and their grandkids, and that she's an enduring character. And I've looked up to her for all of my life. I mean, and it's kind of feels like a scary place to talk about it, but my Hebrew name is actually Leia, and it's spelled Leia, pronounced Leia like in the Torah.
Nice.
But because of her. So that's cool. And I am just so glad that this character exists in media, and that little girls and little boys and little kids everywhere can look up to her and go, cool, that's somebody that I can aspire to be. That's somebody that, even though Carrie is no longer with us, her art is, and her characters are, and her writing is. And what a gift. What a gift we've been given.
Indeed.
That's my last thought. Just grateful. I'm grateful for Leia and for Carrie Fisher.
Well, I can't say anything better than that, so I'm not going to add anything to it other than yes, I agree.
I mean, if anyone else played Princess Leia, would we be talking about her? Could anyone else have delivered the same type of performance that Carrie did? So I'm thankful for Carrie Fisher for having the performance of Princess Leia and giving her the respect the character deserved and giving her the treatment the character deserved and making the character as iconic as it is today. Because someone else could have went in there and just phoned it in.
Mm-hmm.
And they did. Like, we got Carrie Fisher.
Mm-hmm. My favorite Nepo baby. And I say that with all the love in the world, but she is my favorite Nepo baby. Followed by Jamie Lee Curtis. My favorite Nepo babies. Grateful for both of them.
I can agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
So that is going to do it for episode Lix, Lix 59.
Hey.
An episode Roman numeral that Carrie Fisher herself would probably enjoy. So where can people find you online, Bonnie?
Okay, well, that's, my website is vosuperhero.com. That's VO as in voiceover, not BO as in body odor. It can sound
That's
a little
another
weird
site.
over audio. But if you Google voiceover superhero, you'll find me. I have spent years building that brand, so really easy to find me like that. Connect with me everywhere. It's cool.
Nice.
Throw glitter at her.
Yeah,
Yeah.
purple glitter, preferably, just like Carrie did.
Nice. Like, you know what they say about glitter, right?
It gets it everywhere.
It's
Cracks, folds.
It's the herpes of arts and crafts.
The herpes of arts and crafts.
I thought you were going to say it's coarse and it's irritating, but okay.
Could have went that way.
Well, I mean, that too. But, yeah. Once it's on you, you can never get rid of it. But for the Hold Maneuver, you can find us. Just go to, if you search HoldoPod, basically, on Twitter, Blue Sky, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, or just go to Linktree/HoldoPod. You can find all of the HoldoPod related things there. And then you can also find myself and Mike at all of those places just by our first and last names. And then our editor Vactor is also all of those places at his last name at Vactor.
Just be careful searching my name. I'll say that.
Yeah, you might find Mike's dad.
A racist old man.
He's got the same. He's got the same exact name, different middle initial. But just look for the J with the Mike that's on this show.
I mean, there are other Michael Sorens out there, but I don't know what they're like. I just know
they're
my
not
dad
you.
is
So,
They're not cool.
What we're
very
saying is
heavily
search
on social media. Facebook.
search Michael
specifically.
Soren HoldoPod. Then you'll definitely find this Michael Soren. And then also, if you want to email us, you can email us at holdopod@gmail.com. But as always, we are grateful to George Lucas for creating the Star Wars universe.
Oh dear, thank the maker.